Hi friends, welcome to today's video, which is going to be the mid-year freakout tag. So it feels absolutely crazy that we're already halfway through the year, and like honestly, just where did it go? Where did the time go? What is it? Like what's happening? But it's kind of crazy that we're already at this point where we are talking about mid-year wrap-ups and just a little bit of our mid-year stats. So today's video is just a tag. We have 13 questions that we're going to be quickly following through and talking about like basically our best, worst, and just things that we've liked throughout the year. Technically, you're only supposed to be talking about one book per question. I'm probably going to be talking about like 3 because it's so hard for me to narrow it down to certain things. And honestly, I'm just too excited to talk about a lot of these books. And also, I'm not going to be talking about stats in today's video for the first half because of the year, because I'm going to have a whole other video about that later on. And because I love getting into the statistics and really looking at all the numbers, that is something that I can devote a lot of time to. So for people who are actually interested in that, there will be a whole other video. So all the questions will be linked down below, and let's just get started. Let's just get started talking about these. So question number 1 is, what is the best book you've read so far this year? So for this one, I have 2 books I'm going to talk about, and then there's a third that could be considered, but it's going to be into the next question. So first off, we have Blood Over Brighthaven by Emma Wing, and ooh, this is good. This was a dark academia fantasy world, and we are starting off like the first chapter is this group of people doing this wild like chase across this like incredibly dangerous land. And if this first chapter doesn't hook you immediately, like I don't know what's going on, but it was one of the best first chapters I've ever read for a book, and it just kept getting better and better as we went on. So the main part of this book is we are following a woman who is basically the first ever, I forget if they're mages, like what their official title is, but she's the first ever like scholar mage ever admitted into this university and to be a member basically of the faculty of this high council. So up until this point, it has only been men, and they basically every 10 years will admit a woman, or not even admit a woman for testing and put them through the most intense testing ever to basically prove a point that women are not strong enough. But our girl this time, she is the best of the best, and she basically manages to prove to every character there, like every man on this council, that she is above and beyond anything they could ever do, and gets her place in the faculty. But she very quickly realizes that just getting admitted isn't enough. Like just because she's been accepted into it, none of the men there are going to actually recognize her as a peer, are going to accept her into their ranks. They're always going to think of her as other. So she is tasked with basically addressing the city's like energy problem, and she decides to start really investigating like what she could potentially do and what types of solutions she could bring forward. And she brings in an assistant who was formerly a janitor at the school, but he was basically from this race of people who are considered like not even second-class citizens. Like they are basically considered nothing. They are not people at the eyes of this world. And she ends up bringing him in because she cannot get an assistant otherwise. And he really opens her eyes to the plight of his people and basically how they are treated and how they live, because they're not considered citizens, so they do not really have any rights that need to be like addressed. There is nothing that the government officials will give them because to them it doesn't matter. And together they start discovering some very nefarious secrets about the government as a whole and all of these things that are really like horrifying that the country does. And she decides to, well, she basically has to make a decision of what she's going to do with this knowledge. And oh, this book was a masterpiece, truly a masterpiece. Like every part of it was incredibly intelligent, incredibly well done, so well crafted, so explicitly like so just perfect in every way, and I could not be more impressed. I read this in February, and like I'm honestly still thinking that it's probably going to be my best book of the year. So yeah, there is that one. And then the other one I'm going to talk about, it's I guess like not as good to me as Blood Over Brighthaven, but this is probably my number 2 book of the year, and that is We Spread by Ian Reid. And this one is really a look into dementia, following an older woman whose life is just really starting to slip away from her, and she's noticing that, you know, she is not able to live the same life that she used to. And it comes to a point where she's living on her own. She's not really able to manage this, and she gets brought to a care facility. So she's told that back in the day, she and her partner had set this up for her for when she's unable to take care of herself, but she does not have a memory of this. And as she's in this facility, she just like can't help but feel that something's wrong. It feels like she's being told lies. It feels like she's being told things have happened that haven't. She's being told that time is passing that hasn't. And she keeps overhearing conversations that really are leading to a lot of questions for her. So much of this book is you're really not sure if what is happening is actual reality or if it's because she does have dementia and she's not sure what's happening. And it's pretty horrifying that way. It also has the saddest start of a book ever, like just her thoughts on aging and losing herself and not really able to enjoy the same life that she used to live, and just having everything that she loved in her life slowly slipping away was one of the saddest things I've ever read, and like I have not been able to stop thinking about it. So that was my other favorite book. Question number 2 is, what is the best sequel you've read so far? And this is another one that basically could count in my top 3 of the year, and it is The Wisdom of Crowds by Joe Abercrombie. So this is book 3 in his Age of Madness series. So it is the last book in the Blade Itself series. So there's a First Law trilogy. So there's the Blade Itself trilogy, or First Law trilogy, 4 standalones, and then the Age of Madness trilogy. So this is like the 10th book in this world and the final one. And this was a masterpiece. Truly, like, this world is so incredibly good, and just this whole series at a whole, amazing. I didn't really like the standalones, but the 2 trilogies were just like some of the best things I've ever read. This one really gets into kind of like an industrial revolution, basically, and we're following the like change of power as the people are starting to demand more rights for themselves and really realize that, like, or recognize that there really isn't a need for nobility. They do nothing for them, and people are trying to really stand up for their rights. And it is just like a crazy satisfying series, and everything about this book just brought things so well to an ending. It was one of those books too where like it felt like everything was going to wrap up at 50%. It was like so many things were wrapping up that like it felt like the book should be over, and then shit hit the fan again, and it just went in a wildly different direction than I thought it would. And I honestly couldn't say enough about how fantastic this is. Just truly one of the best series I've ever read. I think it is definitely going to go in like one of my top fantasy series of all times after this, especially the Age of Madness trilogy. Like that one alone, it is truly so good. And yeah, absolutely the best sequel. A new release you haven't read yet but want to. I'm going to quickly say Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. I really want to read this. I do have a copy of it that I just haven't opened up in one of my packages, but I'm really excited to read this. It's another romance by her. Love her romances. It's following a main character in a STEM field, as so many of her romances are. And this one, I think it's a main character. She's a scientist and he is a finance guy who's like taking over the company she works at or something. But I truly can't wait for it. I'm so excited. Like, I really can't wait to read it. Number 4 is, what is your most anticipated read for the second half of the year? Hands down, the new Brandon Sanderson book. We're getting book 5 in the Stormlight Archives. I think this is like Winds of Truth, something, I don't remember the exact name, something to do with winds maybe, but I can't wait. This is one of my all-time favorite series. I do think that Words of Radiance is my all-time favorite book, so can't wait. And this is also the book 5 is the end of the first story arc, so terrified, very terrified, but could not be more excited. My biggest disappointment so far of the year, I'm going to give this to Wild Love by Elsie Silver. This was kind of advertised as the start of a single dad billionaire small town romance series, and well, technically all of those were in the book. It just also had like nothing to it. We're following this man who has a teenage daughter come into his life who he didn't know about, and he decides to take her in, but that ends up fully being like the only thing really that happens with the daughter. She is like not present in the book. We have a relationship between him and his best friend's sister. Their relationship was just, I don't know, I felt like there was no relationship progression aside from the fact that they started to hook up and then they decide they were in love. And the billionaire thing, it like was basically a non-plot point. It was just disappointing. The relationship was boring. The relationship with the daughter felt non-existent. We basically had more time with the girlfriend and the daughter than any other dynamic, and yeah, it did nothing for me. Biggest surprise of the year. I needed to think about this one. I didn't prep notes for any of these questions, so I'm kind of just going off the top of my head. Actually, I do have the perfect answer for this. Captive of the Horde King by Zoe Draven. This, I've talked about this so many times, and I hope you're not sick about it because I'm going to be talking about it constantly. This is an alien romance that I gave 5 stars. I don't know who I am. So we're on this planet that's basically controlled by these alien hordes. So there's, I think, 6 hordes that are ruled by horde kings, and they travel across the planet, like basically enforcing rule, but also protecting the planet from, I don't know, monsters that live there, something like that. There are human settlements on this planet, but they've basically just been left to their own devices. They were given like plots of land that are basically unsustainable for life, and have been told that if they hunt, if they do anything, do damage crops, if they do like anything out of line, the hordes can come in and kill them. So we're following a character who her brother, like they're in one of these human settlements and their crops are failing. So her brother read about a process of burning crops to like basically make them more strong. And he didn't actually read all the instructions, so he ends up just burning down their entire cropland. So we have a horde king comes in who decides to punish this boy. But his older sister steps in and says, I will take his punishment, take me captive, do whatever you want with me, just let my brother live. And he takes her captive. So the horde king says that he recognizes like something in her spirit, that like she is a warrior, she is somebody powerful, she is like just the fact that she is this brave, she is somebody that I want in my life. So he takes her and basically intends to make her his wife. And the dynamic of this book, like think Khal Drogo and Daenerys, season 1 of Game of Thrones. That is it. That is basically the plot line. That is so much of the story. This horde, think of the Dothraki. Think like the Horse Lords. Like that is very much what they are, except they're technically aliens with tails. Otherwise, just think the Dothraki. And I absolutely loved it. I loved the dynamic. I loved the characters. I loved the relationship, the world building. Like just so much about this book worked so well for me. Did not expect to. I thought it was just gonna be like a silly fun time that like never think about it again. Loved it. It was such a 5-star for such a strong 5-star for me. A new favorite author, I'm gonna go Karina Halley. She has written like crazy amount of books, but I've primarily only been reading her fantasy romance releases. And I read her Dracula duet, which are Blood Orange and Blood Rose, I think they're called. And we're just following basically a man who's like Dracula, basically Dracula in this world, and his soulmate. And those were incredible. Love them. Then I read another trilogy, well, not trilogy. I read 3 books out of 4. The 4th one hasn't been released yet, of another series about the gods of death. So this one is The River of Shadows, and we're following a young woman whose father decides to go to the god of death to bargain for his life because he has cancer, and his daughter ends up following and offering her place instead of her father's, and the god of death takes her up on that and basically makes her his wife. Really enjoyed it. Really like getting into her books and like have so many more that I want to read. She has an extensive backlist and I can't wait to read more of them. Like they've just been so intensely fun, everyone that I've read. Number 8 and number 9, I like genuinely cannot think of any answers for. This is just like, it's newest fictional crush and newest favorite character. I literally, like, I can't think of a single one. It's very rare that I can really think of like a character that I would say I have a crush on. Not often. And a new fave character, nobody's popping to mind. So these ones, sorry, I just don't really have answers. A book that made you cry, I'm gonna say This Could Be Us by Kennedy Bryant. This was an incredibly emotional romantic book about a couple who had been married, they had kids, they were married for years, but they divorced 2 years prior after going through several instances of grief and not really being able to get past it. So we're following them after being divorced for a few years, trying to move on, and they're starting to realize that they still love each other and they're not like fully done with this love they had. It was just incredibly emotional. It was really emotional, and it was one that like really impacted me a lot. I just really related to a lot of the feelings of depression and grief that are talked about, and the relationship that they follow, so beautiful. Like I really just appreciated seeing a couple who are working their way through it. An older couple, I love seeing those in romance books, and just somebody who like they're really trying to find a way to make this work. And also Heartstopper Volume 5. I cry in all of these. Every edition I read, I cry a little bit. So there's another one. A book that made you happy. So like honestly, pretty much any of my romance or fantasy romances could fit in this, because I find a lot of the times I'm just giggling along. I want a fun, happy time with these, but I do have one that I can really made me happy. And this book is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I mentioned it before, I'm an Ali Hazelwood stan, and this was her first foray into like a paranormal romance, and she did it so well. She did it incredibly well. In this one, we're following a vampire who is basically married to the alpha of a wolf pack and werewolf pack to try and broker peace between their species. And in it, neither of them want to get married. Neither of them are into this, but they find a way to kind of like work together to help solve the mystery of her best friend's disappearance, because she is her best friend was an investigative journalist who basically went missing, and the only thing that she left was a note that had the werewolf alpha's name on it. So she decides to agree to the marriage to try and like figure this out, and I loved it. I love this so much. This gave me like everything I ever wanted. I love like vampire vampire and werewolf books. So vampire and werewolf together, sign me up. Just truly perfection. Ali Hazelwood's writing style just like lends so well to this paranormal romance sphere too. So perfection, so good. And yeah, I was like giggling along the entire time because I enjoyed it so much. Number 12, what are the most beautiful books you got this year? And I have two from the Arcane Society I'm going to show. So this is a bi-monthly subscription for fantasy romance books, and one of the months, I think it might have actually been last year, but I only got them this year. It is 2 books by Grace Draven. I haven't read these yet, but I'm really excited. So we have Master of Crows, and I'm obsessed with this artwork, the foiling, everything about this is truly like stunning, and I just love having these spines on my bookshelf too. Like, these are just truly masterpieces, and I kind of wish like all my books like looked like this, like that they were this beautiful. Not really anything inside, but just this beautiful artwork. So that's Master of Crows. And then we have Entreat Me, which this is even more beautiful. Like, this is just truly unbelievably beautiful character artwork, and I'm so amazed by how well basically everything I've gotten from Arcane Society, perfection, so beautiful. And the last question is, what books do you need to be read by the end of the year? Pretty much every unread thing on the shelf. I just want to keep powering through. I didn't set a goal this year of finishing my physical TBR, but I'm thinking that maybe I'm going to change that, and maybe that will be the focus of my second half of the year. I do like having options of books that I haven't read on here, but I also really want to say that I've read everything that I own. So I'm thinking that we might have a new goals for the second half of the year, and that might be part of it. Well, stay tuned. There's a good chance that I'm going to say that, yeah, my goal is to read every unread book that I have, which right now is I think about 100. So it's gonna be a lot, but like I've already read 140 this year, so I'm not really too worried about that. But that's the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Let me know your answers to any of these down below. If you have anything you want to share, if you have any books that you really liked or didn't like, or just want to talk about, feel free to leave them down below. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Please like it if you did, and hopefully I will see you in one soon. Bye.